They laughed in my face when I said I'd drain their million-dollar lake. 3 months later, I was standing on cracked mud where yachts once floated, watching their shiny resort collapse into a useless crater. And all of it happened because the HOA president decided to destroy my family's stone bridge. My name's Garrett Donovan. I'm 52 hands calloused from decades of real work, 20 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, then another 10 building bridges in the private sector. When my grandfather passed, he left me a fishing cabin on Lake Thornfield, along with something priceless, a hand-built stone bridge he laid with his own hands back in 1943. That bridge wasn't just rocks and mortar. It was where my father proposed to my mother, where I got down on one knee to ask my late wife Sarah to marry me. After Sarah's 3-year battle with cancer, that bridge became my sanctuary. Every creak of the wooden planks felt like her voice reminding me I wasn't alone. For a while, life by the lake was quiet. Old-timers like Walt, a Vietnam vet, and Eleanor, who grew tomatoes and baked cookies for everyone, kept the place neighborly. But then came Vivian Blackwood. Fresh off a messy divorce from hedge fund millions, she rolled in from Connecticut with a white Tesla, a mansion of glass and marble, and the kind of entitlement that could choke a horse. She crowned herself president of the HOA, and suddenly our peaceful lake had rules, lots of them. She called it a beautification campaign. What it really was, a purge. Walt's old base boat was suddenly a maritime eyesore. Eleanor's vegetable patch became agricultural non-compliance, and my grandfather's bridge, structurally unsafe, aesthetically incompatible, subject to immediate removal. When I got that violation notice, it felt like a death sentence for my family history. I marched up to her marble palace with building permits from 1943 and county surveys in hand. I laid them on her imported countertop and said, "This bridge is older than your HOA. It's legal historic and none of your business." She smiled that shark smile. How delightfully naive. The community has voted Mr. Donovan, 30 days to comply, or will pursue more creative enforcement. That's when the harassment began. Every Tuesday, some weasel named Craig showed up with a clipboard measuring my grass, citing me for noise at 5:30 a.m. when I started my boat. He even wrote me up because my boat cover wasn't the right shade of green. Fines piled up like sandbags in a flood. And Vivian whispered poison everywhere at the store, the post office, even church. Suddenly, neighbors I'd known for years were looking at me like I was unstable. I'll be honest, it got to me. One night, sitting on the dock with a beer, I thought maybe she's right. Maybe I'm just some bitter old vet clinging to a pile of rocks. Maybe if I tore down the bridge, I could finally breathe again. For a minute, I almost gave up. But then I remembered Sarah. How she'd squeeze my hand on that bridge, tell me it would outlast both of us. I remembered my grandfather's words. Property fights are won in dusty file rooms, not in fancy boardrooms. So I pulled myself together and went digging. At the courthouse, buried in yellowed maps, I found the truth. The bridge sat on a county easement, public right-of-way. The HOA had no authority over it, none. And the bylaws. They exempted historical structures like mine. I brought that dynamite to the next board meeting, and with the county clerk at my side, I blew her smug little case to pieces. The vote was null. My bridge was untouchable. But Vivian didn't stop. She just changed tactics. Next came the smear campaign. She dug into my military records, found a PTSD note, and called the sheriff claiming I was dangerous. When the deputy showed up, Vivian even dabbed fake tears with a tissue, acting like I was about to snap and hurt somebody. I stood there with my folder, every fine, every violation, every photo, even security footage of a figure in white sabotaging my dock at 2 a.m. The deputy looked at her and said, "Ma'am, filing false reports is a misdemeanor." For the first time, Vivian's mask cracked. And then I found my ace. While she was busy slinging mud, I uncovered something she never thought to check. Lake Thornfield wasn't natural. It was created by a dam. And guess what? My grandfather bought that dam when the original developers went bankrupt, which means when he died, I inherited it. I didn't just own a cabin, I owned the lake. With that deed in hand, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. As dam owner, I had superior water rights. I controlled the lake's water level. Legally, I could drain it for maintenance and environmental compliance, and there wasn't a damn thing Vivian or her army of lawyers could do to stop me. Her $1.8 million resort was built entirely on the assumption the lake would always be full. Without water, it was worthless. I formed a team. Walt handled surveillance. Eleanor worked community relations. My old buddy Marcus, now an environmental inspector, provided official cover. We filed the paperwork for mandatory environmental inspection. Bulletproof. Once the state signed off, no court could touch me. Vivian panicked. She hired thugs to sabotage the spillway, but Walt and I caught them red-handed with torches and cutters. One of them confessed on camera she paid him 10 grand to disable the dam. I sent the evidence straight to the sheriff. Now she was facing criminal conspiracy charges. Still, she tried everything: bribe, smear campaigns, even calling in big city lawyers. But every angle collapsed against the weight of environmental law. By Memorial Day, the permits were approved. The drainage was scheduled, and her resort's grand opening was set for the exact same weekend. That morning, I walked onto the dam with Marcus, the sheriff's deputy, and 3 news crews. Families were setting up for picnic boats in the water, everyone buzzing about the resort's ribbon cutting. They had no idea what was coming. The concrete hummed under my boots, decades of water pressing behind steel gates. I placed my hand on the control wheel, and that's when Vivian stormed in. Tesla screeching hair-undone investors and security trailing behind her. She screamed, "You can't do this. You're destroying everything I built." Deputy Santos held up the inspection order. Marcus lifted the state seal. "Mr. Donovan has full authority. Any interference is obstruction of environmental law." Her own guards stepped back. Even they weren't dumb enough to fight the state. I looked Vivian dead in the eye, then turned the wheel. Metal groaned, water thundered, and the lake began to drop. Within an hour, docks were dangling boats listing like broken toys. By noon, her resort was marooned in a field of mud, investors clutching their heads, reporters filming every second. Vivian collapsed on the concrete screaming while the cameras rolled. The queen of the HOA stripped bare for everyone to see, not powerful, not untouchable, just another petty tyrant brought down by her own arrogance. That's where the story ends. No victory parade, no champagne. Just silence, broken only by the sound of water rushing out of a lake she thought she owned. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this: never let people with money and titles convince you they own your legacy, because sometimes the only way to fight back is to open the floodgates.